Councillor Doody.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Great report. Thank you very much. I think everybody knows how I feel. I think we have a huge area to cover once we became a city. We provide a transit service, and when we provide a transit service, we're providing it for people who need transit service. You know, the City of Toronto, they have massive transit for the masses. They don't make any money. They got to spend millions to provide a service for people to get to work from one end of the city to other. We're no different, only on a smaller scale. Timmins provides a million riderships. Well, but pretty darn close. I meet people all the time. I meet people in the last little while. Not a young lady who mostly retired work at Tim Hortons. You know, you just have to go in. Thank you for the ridership that you provide, the buses that you provide. That's how I get to work. Some of them, you know, you don't think of us. I don't know how many people around this table, when the last time was you took a bus. You know, some people live, that's what they got to do. They got to take a bus. You know, if you live in Porcupine and you got a job at the Timmins Square and you can't afford a car, how do you get there? You know, sure. Listen, I get around. People say, I hate to see those buses traveling at night empty. They're not traveling empty. They're getting someplace to pick up somebody. Could be at winter, could be 40 below. What's the difference? It could be in the middle of summer. But they got to get from point A to B. How about all the students who live in Mount Joy, whatever, got to get to Northern College? They don't have cars. They rely on it. If you live in Porcupine and you got to go to Boreal College, how do you think they get there? Most of them don't have parents that can say, here, we're going to give you a car to get to work and back and forth. You know, the problem is, and I have no problems with that. That's why we have people sitting around the table, that you want to take a look at the cost of services that you give out. And if there are ways of saving, we're here to listen, and we do that at budget time. But when you become a mayor, a councillor, and you provide services in the community, you have an obligation to provide to those a service that they can't afford. You try to give them a helping hand. And that's what transit is all. I defy anybody in this room to tell me a transit service they know of, run by a municipality that makes money. Tell me one. Tell me one. And if somebody has ways of saying this is how we're going to save business, but it will come here at a budget meeting and proposals will be made forward and you can say yes or no. I'm all for if there are ways of saving money. But at the same time, we have an obligation to provide some type of service to people who have to find a way to get from A to B. A to B. And when I take a look what we've done over a period of time, we've got new buses. We've instituted new routes when the recommendations come in by people. An area, and I don't mind asking, the job that we've done of bringing income in by advertising. I see whole buses now are being taken by a college, and it's on there, and we're looking at ways. I have no problem. Somebody wants to come in and make a recommendation at budget time, and this is what we should do. The reasons why, And as a group, we'll decide one way or the other. I'm going to tell you, as a person sitting in this seat, I have an obligation to try and help, whether it's a young person getting to school, university, going to a job, or a senior from their place wanting to get to the square to do some shopping, go to the hospital to visit, whether it's to go to the manor to visit family, and that's what they do. Go to the manor. Go to the manor, and you see the buses that stop right at the Golden Manor and are letting off people to go in there to visit. We're not making huge money from these people, but we're providing a service. And that's what I think it's all about. Yeah. I'll just go on like I've been doing over 31 years. When it comes to budget time, if there's a way of saving money, that's what we're here for. But we're also here to provide a service and a good service. I will agree on one point with my good friend Councillor Black, is I think that an area that we have to improve upon, in my opinion, is handy trans. I know that I believe you got to, in some cases, wait a week or so till you can make a reservation to go somewhere, and I think that's an area I'm sure we're going to be able to have to take a look at. Those are my feelings.
I know I have Councillor Black. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I'm not going to raise my voice or pound on the table because I don't believe this needs this. I look at the facts. And what I'm hearing around this table is people playing to heartstrings and making the situation sound dire and end of the world. Someone having to wait an extra half. I'm not recommending we cancel service. I'm not recommending we don't get people to and from where they need to be. I'm recommending we modify our service so that we don't drive buses around with 3 people. Instead, we drive them once an hour with 6 people. The same 6 people get to where they're going, and yes, they may have to wait half an hour on each side, which may add up to an extra hour. Not an extra afternoon, it's half hour on each side. And I heard a comment, it's cheaper for them. Yeah, taking a bus with 1 person on it is cheaper for them. But it's the taxpayers that are subsidizing the service, and that's not what it was meant for. Buses aren't meant to drive around with 1 person. As far as respecting the environment goes, nobody's respecting the environment by sending a bus around versus a car with 1 or 2 people on it. I'm sorry, the bus is a lot more damaging to the environment than the car is. The whole purpose of buses was mass transportation, and that's what we should be looking at. Going backwards, yeah, I'd like to go backwards in one area, on my tax bill. That's what I hear every year, and no one around this table wants to make any recommendations on how we make that go backwards. It's tough, and it takes some tough decisions, but that's what we're here for. I'm all for enhancing transit. If anyone wants to come in and say we should put some more shelters up so people waiting out in the cold have that option of being in the shelter along the route, I'll support that because I believe transit is an integral part of this community and believe we should be enhancing it. No issues. Bring those recommendations forward and let's vote on them. Let's improve the system so we get ridership up. Bring these ridership numbers all up to 5 to 10 people on each bus. I'm a happy camper. Send buses around with 2 and 3 people when it could be deferred for a half hour. I'm sorry, I don't buy it, and I won't make it a political issue. It's the facts. It's a half-hour shift. At budget time, I brought it up. We had some discussions. We said, well, we need a more detailed report. We'd get into it now. Now we get into it, and we say, well, we'll discuss it at budget time. That's how this works here. It's always a game of shift it off for a later time. Same thing happens between site plans and zoning. We discuss it. We'll save it for then, save it for that. Nothing gets decided. So I will put on the agenda a recommendation, and council can support it or not, to direct our staff to look at something for the next meeting, and it will be up to council. I have no issue standing on recommending a half-hour change to double our passengers on the hour. Anyone that needs it, the service is still there. It's not gone. It's not taken away. They need to wait half an hour or go half an hour earlier. Booking an appointment, you can book it around that. I'm sorry, but we have those decisions to make, and sure, we can recommend we improve handy trans. I support that. But if you don't cut from somewhere else in the system, up go the taxes again. So it's a give and take. I fully, wholeheartedly believe we should make improvements in handy trans, but we need to make cuts in other areas to be able to afford those without putting more burden on the taxpayers.
Councillor Ronaldo.